Dhamaka, Dhamaka.
Dhamaka!
My name is Lakhan.
जहाँ खड़े हो जाते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है।
तुमने कभी किसी से प्यार किया?
Hi and welcome to Khandaan Podcast, where we are doing our Dhamaka 80s series. I'm joined with my lovely co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
Hey everybody.
Hello!
We are kicking off our long-awaited 80s Dhamaka series. We're very excited. How excited are you, Sujoy?
मेरे रगों में खून 10 गुना दौड़ रहा है.
This whole podcast will be in Kadir Khan dialogues.
Absolutely. Well, otherwise, what's the point? This is our secret way to say Kadir Khan is the best.
Amrita, how do you feel about our 80s series? We've been waiting for a long time for this one.
Yeah, I'm a lot more excited than I sound, to be honest.
So we've basically locked in our picks. We have 15 movies. I think it's probably this whole series is going to be 15, 16 episodes. We're not sure how the format is going to be. As usual, we haven't prepared as well as we hope to. But we have picked our movies. 10 have been picked by us and 5 have been picked by our Patreon. This series can only be happening by the support of our lovely Patreon community. So join Patreon, help us grow the podcast. Let us, allow us to do more of this content. So we'll add a link in the show notes. You can, subscribe for $1 and be part of a lovely community. Sujoy, man, which are the final 15 picks that we have?
So we had a lot of soul searching and lots of debates and arguments and throwing of utensils in the kitchen to finally arrive at the final 15. The top 10 that we selected are Karz, Kalia, Earth, Namak Halal, Meri Jang, New Delhi Times, Khoon Bari Mang, Tezab, Chalbaz, and Tridev. This is what a wild bunch of movies, man. For people who are not aware of these, you are in for a ride. And then the Patreon picks are also like a wild bunch. Mr. India, Umrao Jan, Ram Lakhan, Nagina, and Sagar.
What do you think, Amrita? What do you think of those 15 picks?
I think it's a solid list, but I think like Umrao Jan is one of those movies that people think they want to hear about, but it is honestly like the moment like Asim was just like, yo, we gotta have Umrao Jan in there. And I was just like, oh, he's gonna regret it. You're gonna solidly regret it. For one thing, I'm perfectly certain that Asim has never seen Umrao Jan. Have you watched
100%.
him? Yeah.
No, of course I've not seen Umrao
Yes.
Jan.
I just want you to remember that you are the one that were like dead certain that we should be discussing Umrao Jan because you have no one but yourself to blame when we watch this movie. Because
I think this is a good way to actually intro this. Why? How? What was the why did we pick those 15 movies? Right? I mean, I wanted a breakdown of a lot of different characters, a lot of different actors in there, and kind of like the main people that were kind of around in the 80s. We want to cover all of them, and we also didn't want to always go with the obvious picks. We wanted to avoid them, or maybe we've already discussed them too many times. And also we wanted to add some, artsy movies. I think there's New Delhi Times and stuff, and Earth in there. And I also wanted some female-driven movies in there. So that's why I was like, like Umrao Jan is like Pakiza of the 80s. That's what my thinking was. And I'll also say there's a lot of movies on this list that I've not watched. I've not watched a lot of them. And actually, I had somebody comment, I think Sophia Q, who has a lovely TikTok channel. She was commenting about Ijazat, how I have not seen this movie. And it's just that, I've told this many, many times. People take a shot now, the ones that take it. I grew up in Belgium. We used to get VHS cassettes, whatever random, Jafar uncle used to give us, and we used to watch those. And a lot of times were the biggest releases. That was either Amitabh because everybody enjoyed them, or Anil Kapoor. And these art movies never reached those shores. And then when the satellite channel started, I was almost kind of phasing out of Bollywood at that time. It was kind of like the end of the 80s and the early 90s. And then the Khans really piqued my interest again. But there was a span where I didn't have access to these movies, and I had no interest in it anymore. So I kind of missed a lot. And then going back, they weren't always available on DVD or stuff like that. So I just kind of missed it. And then I never got around to it. And a lot of times it's discussing with Sujoy and Amrita, like, this movie is so much fun, and how have you not seen them? And, getting shamed by so many people online. Then I go back and watch them, and I was like, hey, that's actually a good movie. I should have watched it earlier. So that's my justification about it.
It's interesting that you mention or you name check Pakiza, because that is another film that I think a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, Pakiza. And you actually, like, it is not really borne out by the movie itself. Like, it is, there's certainly things in, like, Umrao Jan, as there were things in Pakiza that are worthy of comment. And there is a reason why people study it in film. But as a as a Hindi film watcher, oh, Asim, like, you are gonna have a special time.
Yeah.
Amazing. But our first episode, this episode, is Karz. And I thought, again, Karz, a movie I've not seen. This is the first time I'm watching Karz, like, shock and awe. But I also felt there was no better movie to kick off the 80s series, I think. I think, Sujoy, you might be the biggest Karz fan, if I'm not, like, I think Karz
Among
seems
us three, or just across
of all the
three?
world, after Subhash, Ghai, and Rishi Kapoor, it's you.
No. I mean, I grew up watching Curse all the time because it was always on TV, as far as I can remember. Like, either the songs were on or the movie was on. It's omnipresent. Like Lakshmikant Pyarelal's soundtrack and the clips of Sir Judah and that whole Kalima scene and Simi Garewal putting on the wig. Every single bit of Curse, even before TikTok existed, the short form content summarized version of Curse has been living in my head, rent free in one form or another. And I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. But also, like, Bollywood cannot get enough of Curse. It has, always drawn inspiration from it, different elements of it, the reincarnation arc, the various remakes in various languages, and obviously Himesh Reshammiya's version as well. Yeah. Farah Khan, obviously.
Yeah. Amrita, Karz, for you, where does it kind of stand? Like, you love it, I assume, or?
Yeah. I love Cars. It's funny because, again, this is like one of those films that I don't remember having watched from like A to Z. Like, I can't remember having just sat down and chronologically watched it. Like, I think this might even have been the first time. I don't know. But as Sujoy says, you couldn't escape Cars if you grew up in the 80s and 90s India. It was always playing somewhere. And you sort of almost absorbed it in the background subconsciously as you were living your life. There's so much in this movie that I just remember, the music is a huge part of it because there's that theory that says that the music that you hear before your 14th birthday or something is the one that, like, really seeps into your psyche and you can never forget. And Kaz was definitely part of that soundtrack for me. And it's a very simple movie with very big emotions, and it's a good time, and also for me it makes really good sense for us to begin the series with Cars because it came out in 1980, so it's literally the start of the decade. And I don't think this is an 80s movie, but I don't also think that this is a 70s movie. It's very much a movie specifically of that transition period from the 70s to the 80s. It has that scale of a 70s movie, and it has that weirdly chamber quality of the 80s movies. Like I think that is something that I'm interested to basically examine as we go through the list of movies in the series.
This was not the first. Was it the first reincarnation revenge
No,
drama
no,
or not?
no.
Which ones are there before this?
Well,
Because I
I
Madhumati
don't.
has
mean,
been there.
yeah, Madhumati is
Hmm.
the big one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but it wasn't like there's been a movie, but it wasn't like an established genre. Like now, I feel it's an established genre.
Mhm.
Like from Karan Arjun to Om Shanti Om, you'll get so many of these.
But what I find interesting and different in this version of the reincarnation story is that Ravi Verma gets reincarnated into Monty, but these are two different actors
Yeah,
altogether, which I don't
Yeah.
think has happened before. Like every time there's a reincarnation story, there is a direct connect because it's played by the same actor, and it's a reincarnation. This time you don't, and until you get to the story when it's doing the exposition, maybe that was a reason why this movie wasn't a big hit, because people expected a reincarnation. And
Which is so shocking to me.
Mhm.
Like, wait, do we want to talk about this right now? Because
yes, because I'm shocked. Like, what? This movie wasn't a big hit.
No.
no, it came out literally 1 week before Kurbani, Feroz Khan's Kurbani,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you've seen, Asim, but it had a very sexy Zinat Aman in it. And of course, it was Feroz Khan, so it was just batshit. And everybody was just like, it was like the huge hit of that year. And it literally just wiped the floor with Karz when it came out. And like Subhash guy has been very bitter about it for like years.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I did not know. I thought this was just a massive, like, game-changing, kind of
Yeah.
hit. I'm really shocked when you're
But
telling me this.
also that also speaks like box office numbers at the end of the day
Yeah.
don't matter shit
Yeah.
in the the legacy of a movie, because I think Cars now is a more favorite movie of people than Kurbani I would say.
Yeah, it definitely has more cultural relevance in any
Yeah.
shape or form, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so hit us up with a summary, Amrita, for the people like me who hadn't seen Karz. What is Karz about?
Okay, so the movie begins with this mopey dude called Ravi who's just won a family property dispute in the courts. And he marries his girlfriend Kamini, who then immediately proceeds to murder him. Cut to 20 years later, there is this very famous pop star called Monty. And Monty has these debilitating flashbacks of a life or like visions that he doesn't understand. And he is advised to go to Uti to get some rest because he's a big like money making machine. And when he arrives in Uti, Uti is right down the road from Kunul, which is where like the first dude, Ravi, was from. And Monty suddenly starts recognizing landmarks. He starts recognizing all sorts of things and realizes that he is actually Ravi who has been reincarnated to get justice for his murder and to save his family, which is his Vidva Ma and his Lachar Behen. So it's a very, very strong Bollywood trope movie, is what it is.
I mean, this is where the Bollywood trope began in a way, It is the epicenter.
Yeah, that's really what I'm interested in when I was watching it. Is that I'm asking, has there been a revenge reincarnation story? But yes, there has been. But this is where trope started. It feels, and that's why it's so surprising when you tell me this movie wasn't even a hit. Like, I'm still under the shock. I have first one question that I had immediately when I was watching this movie is Karz part of the Mere Naam Joker cinematic universe? Is it part of the MNJCU?
What makes you think
No,
that?
why would you? Yeah, why would you make you think of that?
Did I just mess this joke up completely by not recognizing the actors?
Simi Garewal.
Is that not her?
Yeah, it is her,
Yes.
but
At the train station. Yeah, I thought, that's what Monty finally gets her girl, like so many years later.
what?
What?
That's a reach. That's a reach.
Let's move on. Let's move on. I thought like Subhash Ghai has also started the trope of cinematic universes and also revenge stories. His power doesn't range this far. So yeah, let's talk about Subhash Ghai as a director, because I think even when we go through our 15 movies, a lot of them are Subhash Ghai movies.
Oh yeah,
right. So is there any director that is more of the 80s than Subhash Ghai? I would not be able to find another one. I think like he is the 80s for me. And I think always he was when I remember his movies coming out, it was like he makes big movies. He's the what was his name? The Showman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also this thing where he shows up in the movies as a little cameo. It just made him like a bigger director than anybody else. Like this bravado in filmmaking, in the persona that he was, like always wearing a hat, always talking like weirdly about his movies. Subhash Ghai was a thing.
Yeah, in a pre-YouTube era where you can only get access to these filmmakers via the Lehere tapes, it's that the fraction of information that you get, and you build an image of the director in your head, and also sort of draw the parallel with the movies that he makes. Subhash Ghai always was the larger than life 80s director in my head, and he always remained that, because when he then moved on to the 90s, his aesthetics just fall apart. It just dated so quickly, and then obviously he couldn't carry into the 2000s. But as an 80s guy, he was solid, man. His bunch of movies, if you pull up his filmography, it's nuts. His collaboration with Anil Kapoor, Jackie Shroff, it was nuts. Even a movie like Saudagar, which is like Dilip Kumar and Raj Kumar and two new people. Saudagar was a big deal when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, he was up till the 2000s, right? Mm-hmm. Like Tal came out in 1999, and then Yade was in 2001. It was completely dated. Mm-hmm. Like within a year, like just it all came from crumbling down. And I think one of the things that he's a hallmark was the music, right? Even when you talk about Saudagar, when you talk about Karz, the music has always been such a big part of his movies. And then also just the language, and it's just we're living in such an interesting times where I feel Indian cinema now wants to make Subhash Ghai movies again. Like at the end, that's what we want now. Like we've had the artsy period and the rom-com period and the small independent movie, and now we want to go back to big bombastic action-driven movies with a great soundtrack and big stars. And hopefully get more stars together, which essentially is a Subhash Ghai movie, right? Like, is it not?
I don't know if so Subhash Ghai is definitely one of the people that I strongly associate with the 80s, but for me, it's also the Mahesh Bhatt decade. Like he didn't make like the big movies like Ghai did. Ghai obviously made like the big blockbuster movies, but if you look at, say, Mahesh Bhatt's filmography in the same era, these are also some of like the most influential movies of those years, and it went on to be a huge influence in the kind of movies that were made in the 90s, whereas Subhash Ghai is almost a cul-de-sac when it comes to Hindi cinema. But I will say that Ghai was perhaps the last of the showman directors. I think this is like what Bhansali aspires to be, but doesn't have the personality to be. Like Ghai definitely was taking a page out of Raj Kapoor. That's the kind of director he wanted to be. He wanted to be flamboyant. He wanted to be the heart of the Hindi film industry. He wanted to be the grandpapa of everybody. So if you see all the Lehenai footage of the holy parties that he used to have, weirdly enough, I think like a lot of the Bollywood directors who sort of, the Bollywood directors who were sort of power centers in and of themselves, they sort of exercise that power through parties that they would like invite. So, there would like Raj Kapoor parties, there's like, like Diwali parties at like so and so's house or like whatever. Um, and these are the kind of things that you don't really get to see in Bollywood of today. Like, you maybe get to see like the packed wall outside Manish Malhotra's house at Diwali or something, which is not the same as, say, that footage of Shah Rukh and Gauri, for example, dancing at Holi at Subhash Ghai's, like right after they got married. Like that kind of like very intimate setting where people are just like coming together, fraternizing in the real sense of the word. Like that kind of a milieu was basically something that only someone like Subhash Ghai could have done. And I think that went away with the whole corporatization of Bollywood, which has its bad. I mean, it's a bad thing and also it's a good thing, like it definitely cleaned up the industry in a lot of ways because Guy himself is like quite a sleazy character. Like you can't be that kind of a person without being a little bit sleazy. And Guy was like very sleazy. So, yeah.
What are the tropes of a Subhash Ghai movie for you guys? Like music we've discussed, right? But for me, a larger than life villain is the second trope that Subhash Ghai villain has. It's like we have the Kukas, we have Sarjon from Ram Lakhan, and then we also have Sarjuda here, which I didn't know that there was a clear link between Sarjon and Sarjuda. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
The tropes of a Subhash Ghai movie are basically the tropes of a masala movie, which is basically invented by Manmohan Desai. So anything that you are talking about, these are all inventions of Manmohan Desai, like the over-the-top villain with like a weird name that is instantly memorable. The climax song where like everyone comes together and there's like a big production. Like all of these things, like the innocent girl who's also capable of throwing a punch, like all of those things. Like it's very Manmohan Desai.
Yeah. But the other thing I also found was also the heroine launch. Like that was a big thing for Subhash Ghai too, right? And again, it's a trope we've seen. So I mean, you have the Yash Chopra actress, right? Like, and then you also had like, and he's launched like, or he, let's say he takes credit for the launch of a lot of actresses, be it Madhuri, be it
Meenakshi,
Meenakshi,
Manisha,
Mahima Chaudhary, Manisha Koirala, yeah. Even like when he was making Kisna, one of his last movies, there was this whole thing that I'm going to search a girl out and I'm going to launch her and all of this thing. It didn't go well, obviously, for Kisna, but there was this whole idea of the myth of Subhash Ghai launching an actress. And I think with Kisna, he was playing that. And I think here, I don't know if Tina Munim in this one was already, I think she was already an established actress, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She had already done like Devanand movies and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, she's the Devanand Discovery.
Right. But yeah, those were the kind of the things that I was kind of picking up on watching Subhash Ghai. Although even when we go to Madhuri, right, she had been launched, right, but he does present them in a way that they really become kind of a focal point of the movie itself. And I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Devanand did that too. I'm not aware of his movies, but I feel like just the money he spends on them, the clothes, the way they're shot, he really presents them really, very well. And I feel for a lot of actresses, being a Subhash Ghai heroine meant that.
Definitely, like that was a huge deal. The fact that he renamed them to an M name, it was like if their names weren't actually with an M. So like all of those things, like it meant something, the same as it meant something to be a Yash Chopra heroine, a Raj Kapoor heroine. Like I said, like Subhash Ghai was definitely modeled on like the directors that came before him.
Hmm. So let's get into the plot of Karz a little bit. It starts with Raj Kiran, right? I've never been able to watch Raj Kiran in movies. Like, I have a really tough time.
Why?
I don't know. He just has one of those like 70s, 80s like faces that I want to slap. I don't know what it is. मेरे अंदर की सिमी गरिवाल जाग जाती है इसको देख के.
You want him to drive against the Kalima temple.
Multiple times. Not once, like multiple times. Yeah, I was watching him and I was like, yeah, Raj Kiran has no game, like at all.
There's always an ulterior motive behind dating Raj Kiran.
And I was watching because in my mind, I had obviously Om Shanti Om in my head, right? Like, I just thought, like, he comes back and he wants to, and I also had Karan Arjun in my head, like this big tragedy has happened, and like the gods are so angry, or they want revenge that they send back, a reincarnation. But here I was like, I mean, it's not that big. It's not big. It's that big of a deal. Like, all this for a tea estate. Like, I was like, why is Sarjuda, like, is he like the approved vendor of PG tips or something like that? Did he get the contract? Like, why does he want this tea estate this bad?
Yeah.
It was interesting to see that. I was like, yeah, I don't know if the gods would be this angry to send Rishi Kapoor to extract revenge because Raj Kiran got scammed here,
All this for tea.
Yeah, all the for a cup of chai, yeah. What do you guys think of the whole Simi Garewal Raj Kiran setup of the movie?
I mean, from the get-go, it's very clear that Simi Garewal is evil because the opening frame is she lights up a cigarette.
Yeah.
ये बंदी सही नहीं है. And then the bhai that takes care of all the business, and she's just the glamorous face, and then we get introduced to Sir Judah and his gang, and McMahon gets to say more than 2 lines in this movie, which is, I think he's got the most lines of his career in this movie, I suppose, which I'm really happy for him.
So McMahon, for the people that don't know, Sir Judah doesn't talk. He clinks his long manicured nails on his glass, and McMahon's job is to translate this Sir Judah Morse code. So I was just thinking, like, does he get sent to a seminar every 3 months to update the Sir Judah Morse code language? Like, how does that work? What is the life of McMahon in this job?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a good one because McMahon does get to talk more than 2 lines, which is probably the best thing he's ever done, Yeah. I was very surprised, though, that it's never ever explained why Simi Garewal is a bad girl, or it's coded cinematically, right? Because she's smoking while having pigtails, which is the world's worst sin you can do as a woman. But they never really get into why she wants the money, what she's going to do with it, why Sir Judah has a hold of her. All of that is never really explained. It's just shorthand for these are bad people.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's also a point where they describe the power dynamic between the two, and Sir Judah is like, Malkin banne ki koshish mat karna. Don't think because the mahal is named after you that you will turn on Sir Judah. And you see that that's the hierarchy that is there. But again, like, it's not never explained why Kamini cannot do that.
Yeah. And also, like, once she takes hold of the tea estate, that's like she doesn't do anything with it. So, like you get all that money and you're still stuck in Ooty on a tea estate. Like what do you like? Itne paise se kya karna hai? Like what do you do with it? You're still leading a boring life.
Yeah.
It's not like she's like full on doing Ayashi and having young lovers come over and like no, she's just like living like a widow in this tea estate, surrounded by servants, and that's it. So I don't even know what the end game was for Simi Garewal.
I think maybe the Pran incident sort of put brakes on that. Like she might have planned bigger things, but now she's living in the fear of her secret being out because Pran is there.
Right, Pran is there for sure. Pran is definitely there. Amrita, what do you think of Pran in this movie?
Kabira.
I mean, yeah, this is like that weird era in Pran's career, right? Where he's not the bad guy anymore, but he's playing like what he probably considers to be textured characters or whatever.
Flexible morals.
Yeah, but it is funny that like isn't he supposed to be like Tina's
dad's friend?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
okay.
the dad dies.
I thought for some reason. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, like I thought he was like her brother, and I was just like, what?
No.
Yeah.
We'll get there. About the age difference, we will get there.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, I always like Pran. Who doesn't like Pran?
Yeah, watching also Pran is like, because we watched a few Pran movies. Like we just had Caravan and here, and he's like such a joy to listen to. Like not even the acting. I was just like, it's like his command of dialogue delivery and all of like the language is so amazing. Like you forget like sometimes when you're watching Bollywood now, and like how skilled these people were in like elocution and Urdu and Hindi and stuff like that. That all of those skill sets are pretty much gone now.
Like nobody in Hindi film industry can say barkhurdar like Pran does. Just that one word, barkhurdar. It's so satisfying.
Yeah. And he also has this weird kuka kind of getup, right? Like the weird beard. He's like half Muslim, half Hindu.
Yeah, it's ambiguous. Hindu. That's why he's called Kabir,
Yeah. And plus, he's doing these poetic lines, but he's also a badass. It's all of these combinations. It's quite an interesting and very weird kooky character that Pran is playing here. And then, I mean, his straight relationship is then with Tina Munim, right? Like the girl he saves, and he also kills Kamini's brother by throwing like one very thin butter knife at his chest. What like Tina Munim, now Tina Ambani. Let's be careful. She is the wife of a bajillionaire. So before we say anything,
I don't know. Is Anil bankrupt or not?
Yeah, exactly. He's like the safest Ambani, I think.
He's the one we can insult?
Yes.
Who's gonna take charge of that? Like who's gonna Amrita can, she's still in India. We have like some semblance of distance here. No, but what was she in the 80s? Like how big of a star? Because for me, she seemed like massive growing up. Like I saw her, she felt like everywhere. And then she just completely disappeared. I remember I used to call her, like I was really tiny. Like I remember I used to call her Rajesh Khanna's girlfriend as a kid. Because she was like in all of his movies, right? And
no,
I think
she
was actually, right. Yeah, go ahead, Amrita.
No, she actually was Rajesh Khanna's girlfriend.
Yeah. I clocked that at year 6. I was 6 years old. I had no access to gossip language, magazines and things like that. But I already clocked that watching it then. But she's like, I mean, Rajesh Khanna's dating history is like really, really murky, right? So I don't think we're doing are we doing a Rajesh Khanna movie? No, right?
No.
We're not.
I don't think so.
Good.
We are not doing a Raj Babur movie either, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah.
But
No, go ahead. No, I'm saying we made some good choices by avoiding some people that we really didn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get back to Tina though.
Looking at her filmography, I think the most successful she was when she was paired with Rishi Kapoor. So she had Bade Dilwala with Rishi Kapoor. She had Ye Wada Raha, which is a massive hit. Then she had Karz, obviously, but I think she did a few others that were not that big, but these three were the biggest ones.
She's beautiful though. Like she's amazing to look in. Like in this, like she's really really pretty. But she's also
A schoolgirl.
14 in this, 14 in this movie.
Sola.
Sola, yeah,
16.
Yeah, but and Rishi Kapoor is like 30. I think he's there's not even that much of a difference between Simi Garewal and Rishi Kapoor's age while they're shooting this, isn't it? I think I calculated it. It wasn't that. It was like 4 or 5 years or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, she's supposed to be 16, and they really focus on it because she's not only in high school, dressed in a school uniform, but she's also very coded as a baby. Like it's this whole idea when she's sitting with Rishi Kapoor in the tree and stuff like that. She's like, "Oh, I'm such an innocent girl. I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that. My friends are saying boys are like this." And it's so weird watching it, knowing that this guy is like 30, right? Like in like whatever. He's supposed to be younger in the movies. He does not look like younger at all. They apparently say there's somebody who asks him, "How old are you?" Monty's character, and he says, "Yeah, 21, 22." I was like, that is the shadiest answer to give when somebody asks you, "How old are you?" because you're dating my daughter, and you give like an approximation of an age.
Yeah.
That's not a good look at all. Clearly the guy is like 40.
But I calculated Rishi Kapoor was 28 at 1980.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, but how old was Simi Garewal? She wasn't that much older, man. Yeah. But yeah, Amrita, what do you think of Tina Munim as an actress, as a presence?
Favorite, I have to say. Like I don't know. She's just there mostly.
Guys, I have a joke.
Yes.
Sorry. Simi Garewal's Wikipedia page has no date of birth. So she's literally living the life of Kamini. Like we don't know. We don't know.
I think it's on IMDb. Her date of birth is there.
Yeah, she's tried her best to remove it. I bet, she has an assistant who goes on Wikipedia every day to check.
1947. So 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years difference. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that big of a difference between these two.
So are you justifying Mera Naam Joker then, Asim?
That was my initial joke, which you guys killed. That's what I was going for.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, Amrita, Tina Munim.
Not my favorite. That's basically.
You don't even want to waste too much bandwidth talking about it.
No.
Okay, let's get into the Rishi Kapoor of it all then.
Yes.
Yeah, never been a fan of Rishi Kapoor. That's probably one of the reasons I've not watched Karz. I was an Amitabh guy, right? I was an Amitabh guy, and then I became an Anil Kapoor guy. And there were a lot of these actors that, if they were kind of in the similar vein, I would like them. Like I like Jackie Shroff a lot. I like Sunny Deol and all that. But Rishi Kapoor was always so different. Like
he was a soft boy. He was a soft boy.
He was a soft boy. Yeah, and I also what annoyed me even then is that there was this idea of a chocolate hero. Remember that term, chocolate hero? I don't think we use it anymore, right?
No.
Like, do we? Yeah.
No, not really.
But there was this term of a chocolate hero, which probably is like a soft boy or making romantic movies and like playing younger than himself, right? Like a Ralph Macchio kind of guy, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just never thought he looked like a chocolate boy. I think he like a chocolate hero. I thought he was always like out of shape. An uncle, yeah, out of shape, badly dressed. His movies weren't really something that interested me. And like always people were like, Rishi's so amazing in dancing in songs, and I just couldn't see it. I do see it in Karz though. I do see that he's great in the Karz songs for real. But that was my impression of him back when I was kind of growing up and watching movies. Right now, obviously, I'm looking back at them and kind of my opinion has slightly changed. But that's why I missed a lot of these Rishi Kapoor movies. But I mean, he's great in Karz, right? And I think he also looks great a few times. Like there's this shot where he's wearing this long black overcoat with a turtleneck. And he looks, I was like, I don't think Rishi Kapoor has ever looked this good. Like this is like the best look for him.
I mean, he's still in his 20s here, you know. But he, because his image is sort of the Chandni look stayed forever afterwards, right? The sweater and dancing but not dancing and trying to romance younger heroines. That he acted against Manisha Koirala and Juhi Chawla, and that was kind of the dusk of his romantic hero career. And I think that did a disservice to his earlier days when he was romancing heroines that were his age appropriate, like Tina Munim in this case, or Neetu Singh, his wife, and
none of these women are appropriate to his age, by the way. Just like,
that is also true.
All very, very young girls. So nothing changed basically for Rishi Kapoor. He was always acting against women that were. But I guess it was par for course.
Mm-hmm.
It still is. Like, what am I saying? It still is. Like it still is. Nothing has changed. Amrita, what do you feel about Rishi Kapoor?
I think he's great in this role. I think there are like certain, I think like in the 90s, he just like fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
But in like, I don't think it's possible for us to really truly appreciate what a big star Rishi was. Like, it was the star son launch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't do that anymore, in our days of like Nepo kid hate campaigns. And it was like, obviously, I wasn't alive when he made his debut, but I've heard my mom talk about it, completely unprompted. Like, that entire generation of women will like talk about like what it was like when Bobby came out and everybody just fell in love with him. And he really was the enfant terrible of like Bollywood for a solid decade. And I don't think he was, and he's like very much like a natural actor. Like I was looking at interviews where they were talking to him about, the way that he handles instruments, because he's done a lot of these movies where he's playing a rock star or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that, and he was like, listen, I don't know how to play a single instrument. I've never played anything in my life. But he's like very, and I think like this is the difference between someone like Rishi Kapoor and say someone like Ranveer Singh or even Ranbir Kapoor for that matter, where that generation, or this generation of actors, if you tell them that, okay, so you need to be this character, they'll be like, well, okay, I'm going to go away, I'm going to become that character, blah, blah, blah. And Rishi Kapoor just belongs to that generation of actors who are just like, well, I'm just going to act it. And he was good at it, where he's like, it's my job to make you believe that I can play an instrument.
Yeah.
And you do. Like for years and years and years, I honestly thought that he could play the guitar. Because he's just so good at doing the guitar in this film.
And also, he's playing the violin in Darde Dil. And like there's so many piano songs of Rishi Kapoor. Like the piano song has been like one of the big tropes in Bollywood music, right? In the 50s, we had like a lot of actors, professing love over a piano song. Dilip Kumar has done it, and all the actors have done it. But there's something about how Rishi Kapoor does it. You can believe that he's a musician.
It almost reminds me of Shah Rukh, to be honest. Like, I feel Shah Rukh has that same quality where obviously Shah Rukh cannot play any instrument for shit, but he really makes you believe it, like that he can do the piano, he can do the violin. And yeah, it is. And I know that Karz was probably a big movie for Shah Rukh, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, Om Shanti Om was not going to be there, right? Like, so yeah, I think it's really.
And it's like, I forget whose autobiography. I think it was like maybe Shashi Kapoor was talking about in like an interview of his or something. But he said that when Rishi Kapoor was small, and you would tick him off or something, and he'd start crying. In the middle of crying, and he was probably like around like what 5 6 years old. In the middle of crying, he would run away to the bathroom to just look at himself in the mirror to see how his face looked when he cried. And he was just like, that's the kind of innate ability, like acting, uh like jukav, basically, like that you can't foster in a person. Like some people are just like born with that, and Rishi was very much born with it.
Mm.
So he's like very much a natural actor. He's very much, but he's also, again, like a lot of our greats, so to speak, he's also incredibly difficult. There are like so many stories well into his old age. I mean, I think he got worse the older he got, but even as a young man, there's just all these stories of how terrible he was on the
We all
sets.
forget that Rishi Kapoor's Twitter account was a thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
he used to have his Friday night drinks and Twitter session. He used to
Yeah.
shit on everybody in the industry, and we used to know Uncle has had a few.
I'm sure that's not even been deleted. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure people can still find it, right? Yeah. So, what also surprised me in this movie, it's basically that Karz is set up in two parts, right? The second part is the revenge story where he goes back to Uti and he's like, I'll get into that quickly but later on. But the first part of this movie is basically a contract dispute. Like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, which is a really weird setup. I didn't expect it. It's the half of the movie. He's not a pop star. I think he's a lounge singer, right? Like in a hotel. And the person that found him as a kid is the owner of the hotel chains or the hotel. He's basically adopted this kid and he forces him to sing, and he can't sing for anybody else, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's also some ego squabble where he says like, I am the star maker, without me he is nothing.
Mhm.
And Rishi Kapoor gets invited to a party somewhere else, and then he gets tricked by Iftikhar to sing a song, and his adoptive father comes in, and he's so pissed off that he's just basically, the fight is there's a fight between them. And I did not expect that this was going to be the first part of Karz. I did not expect this at all. But we do get some banger songs out of it because of that. And the one thing that I thought I'm sure this had existed before. Amrita, you'll probably know this, but the credits of the movie, where the credits are part of the props of the, I'd never seen it this way. I was like, wow, this is such a cool way. And such a
like in Paisa Ye Paisa, right? The first song that is introduced will be like this is probably the first time when written credits are shown as part of the song itself. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it just shows that how much of a vision of the camera setup Subhash Ghai had, right, to do this way. Because obviously now we can just superimpose credits, or we have so many ways to do it. Back in the day, you couldn't, right? So basically, it's all like props where you have glass and they've stuck on or painted on the names produced by this, camera work with that. And then the camera moves within the song behind that screen. And I was like, this is such an inventive way. I'd never seen it. I maybe, Amrita, you can correct me. Maybe this already existed somewhere. But for me, this was quite innovative to see it this way.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it either.
Yeah.
The right person to answer that question for you, though, would have been like Beth, because she really pays attention to innovative title credits.
I'll DM Beth and see if she has an earlier version of this. What did you guys think of the first half of the movie? Was there anything that stood out for you? Anything that you want to kind of point out?
Like when the first half happens, I'm like, there's one song after another coming up, right? And I'm like, there won't be enough songs for the second half of this movie. What are we going to survive on? But obviously, the climax song in the high school is going to happen in the last bit, where we get the recap of the Punarjanam and
The
everybody
movie.
and pointing towards Simi Garewal, the chief guest, which is always a great Bollywood trope to have. But yeah, the first half is pretty much like living the movie through the songs, and every song just is a masterpiece. I know they are kind of inspired or sampled from different inspirations, like Shrikant Pyarelal have lifted bits and pieces, but even then, so like I totally live for Om Shanti Om. That track, like it's the arrangement, the production of it, and obviously the I after all these years, I realized that Rishi Kapoor, that spinning disc, is actually a vinyl, because he arrives on the needle. I was like, wow! After all these years, I realized just that it's an HMV vinyl, supposedly.
There's even a shot where he falls. Like you could see he jumps off the vinyl and he has no balance, and they left it in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, they really love that prop, right? And it comes a few times in a few different songs. Yeah? And I think also it's like it's one song immediately after the other, right? There's no break between Om Shanti Om and Paisa Hai Paisa, right?
No,
Or is
Paisa
there?
Ye Paisa starts the
Comes
movie,
first.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you have Om Shanti Om later. There is a break.
And in the party song, don't they do two songs one after the other?
That's that they did.
That's also in between, because that
I thought that was like
happens where Iftikhar is.
right.
Yeah.
No, because I was thinking that like, why there's two songs one after the other. I was like, there's no break here. Like you, I was thinking like we're gonna run out of songs here. But yeah, maybe I misremember this. Yeah, it's really cool. And I was just like, I was thinking of Om Shanti Om when I was the movie, like Farah Khan movie when I was watching it, and I was like, wow, it's so inventive of Farah to intersperse her movie with this. Like, it's such cool way to do it. I was just like, yeah, I was watching Karz and thinking of Farah Khan as I usually do.
Lot out, Farah, lot out.
Yeah, we miss her. We miss her. Yeah, what do you think of the whole adoptive? Because there is a moment where he's really like aching for his mother's love, right?
And both
because
of
he
them, the
doesn't-
Oberois don't give a shit about him.
Absolutely not, yeah.
Also, like when he tries to call him daddy, and he was like, "Don't call me that in front of people," or something like that, to that effect. Yeah.
Which, yeah, don't do that. Like, if this conversation has happened a lot of times, Monty.
Yeah.
Like, learn, if people don't want to be called daddy, don't call them daddy. Like, it's the opposite of the podcast. Don't call me daddy.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, and I also find it funny because he has this whole relationship with his friend
Jalal
Dr.
Aga.
Dayal.
Jalal Aga.
Yeah. Is that who Jalal Aga?
Yeah.
The actor, you mean? Yeah. Who's also the Mehbooba guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I had to IMDb and I was like, what the hell? I didn't see. Because, yeah, he annoyed me from the moment I saw him. I was
Why?
like,
He was the Pan Parag guy.
What's the Pan Parag guy?
Oh, it's a very Indian thing. अभी मुझे आधा घंटा लग जाएगा explain करने में.
What do you mean? Like, you can't just like. We have a lot of non-Indian listeners. Tell them what the Pan Parag guy is.
There used to be this
Pan masala thing.
yeah. So like the things that everyone like gets mad at, like Akshay and
Ajay.
Shah Rukh and Ajay for promoting. The original was by Jalal Aga,
And
who
Shami
used
Kapoor.
to, and Shami Kapoor. बारातियों का स्वागत पान पराग से करेंगे.
Exactly.
And he
हमारी
was
So this was a
it's
big,
like
big
it's
ad
like an
campaign
ad
that
in which
ran
like
for
there's a
years and
wedding
years.
and like and then Jalal Aga and Shami Kapoor are samdhis, and like Jalal Aga is like, oh no, like what will happen, like like, do you guys want dowry and everything? This is, by the way, the 80s, so everyone's like, हाँ dowry तो चाहिए ही होगा. And then Shami Kapoor is like, नहीं हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए, बस आप बारातियों का स्वागत पान पराग से करें. And then pan parag, and there's like one giant like thali, and apparently like that's how you greet baratis
Nice.
in the 80s.
It's like basically, ambassador, you really spoil us. With the Ferrero Rocher.
Ferrero Rocher, yeah.
In India, it's Pan Para, basically.
Wow.
So this was a series of ads or something like that.
Yeah. And it ran for decades
Is it?
altogether. Like,
Yeah.
we only had
It was the same
Doordarshan.
ad.
Yeah.
It just, yes.
Yeah. Because I remember the one ad where there's this old guy running to catch the bus, and the younger guy is like, and he looks at the old guy and he's like, "Oh, how come you're still fit?" And then there's some like,
and he doesn't smoke.
No, he wasn't smoking. It was like some energy pill that you guys
Prash.
have in India. That's the one. Yeah, that ad I remember.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Anyway, ads aside, and yeah. So the second half of the movie then is basically this elaborate seduction plan that Rishi Kapoor has put in the place.
Yeah.
Let me break down the elements of Monty's seduction plan. So here are the elements. First, he creeps out on her like he's a obsessed sexual rapist. Where he's like looking at her all sweaty. He's like, "Mujhe ye chahiye, I want her." So that's the first part. Then he sends her a mirror with "I love you" written in it. Then he sends a rapist who's also like a karate cyclops kind of thing that's happening. Then he sits in front of her in the lounge and plays guitar for her for like 20 minutes while the camera spins around them. Then there's a part where there's a dancing skeleton happening in a jeep. It's like, werewolf bar mitzvah. Spooky, scary. And then there's the Ek Hasina Thi, which is the most obvious song. The song has no subtlety at all, because the whole Ek Hasina Thi, and then he points at her, Ye wali thi. That was the Hasina. That killed me. Get her. And then she unravels. So that's the basic 5-point seduction plan that Monty had created, basically. What I find really interesting in the second half of the movie, and with all of the points that I've laid out, is that Tina Munim is not involved with any of this. Like, they don't tell her, they don't inform her, they don't tell her, I'm going to seduce this older lady that's kind of your adoptive mom. She's just completely disappeared, and they just go out. Although the funny part is, Tina Munim's uncle, Pran, he's really involved in this plan.
Yeah.
It's such a weird way to do this.
They lied to her, saying, we need money for your wedding fund, basically, and that's why we are trying to scam Meme Sahib. And
do they?
Yeah, they do that. Like, at one point, Tina Munim gets jealous because Monty is dating the Meme Sahib, and she was like, why the heck you don't love me anymore? And then Pran tries to pacify her by saying, oh, he's going to buy you some lollipop from Meme Sahib money. So, yeah.
I feel there's a lollipop.
Basically that.
But Amrita, what do you feel? How is Simi Garewal presented in this as a character, right? Because there's definitely this idea of vanity, like appealing to her vanity of wanting to remain young, and then punishing her with that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's that scene where she's hiding her
gray
hair with like a black wig, and then one of the servants comes in, and he starts laughing and cackling about, oh my god, what's the expression? Ghodi something lal lagam.
Yeah, buddhi ghodi lal lagam.
Yeah,
by the way, the servant is the ugliest servant ever in the history of servants.
That will not stop men, Sujoy.
Yeah.
That will not stop men to make fun of Simi Garewal. Which, it's... what do you feel about that? Like, there's this definitely weird undertone here, right?
I mean, there is, but it's also like really fascinating, because I don't remember having watched a character like Kamini in Hindi cinema before this movie. Like there have been like age gap movies, even age gap movies starring Rishi Kapoor. I mean, there's a really interesting movie with Shashi Kapoor, Rishi Kapoor, and Rakhi, for instance, and Neetu Kapoor as well in it. But there is something about this film and the way that Kamini is portrayed, because it has to do a lot with Simi Garewal herself, who is possibly the most elegant woman who has ever acted in Indian cinema. And she's, I think, like one of the very like few actresses of her era who came with her own sensibility of style and was able to preserve that throughout her career, which is not an easy feat in Bollywood, where the director usually decides, like what the heroine's going to wear, etc. Um, and in this one, like she really was like, like a Rani Saiba. Like she was just the furs, the feathers, like the hair. Um, I can only imagine what it must be like if she'd been a real person and you were in like tiny little kunur, and then suddenly there was this woman in like boa feathers, like just walking around. Um, so yeah, and then the idea that like her biggest, like it's not so much that her husband has come back to life, but that she must see him in his youth, or his soul, it like is preserved in like its pristine beauty and of youth, whereas she has now become an old hag. Like that's an interesting psychological turn for the movie to take. And that's the kind of thing that makes Subhash Ghai a good director, in my opinion. Like it's not so much the fact that the little eccentricities that one talks about when one talks about Subhash Ghai. It's the fact that he will frequently include something that is just slightly offbeat, something unexpected, and something that hints at some sort of like psychosexual sort of narrative that is very unexpected for a movie of the kind that probably existed till then. So yeah, I really like Kamini as a character. Kamini the Kamini.
I, I mean, you mentioned psychosexual, but I also felt it was interesting. I mean, obviously, these are the time we are living in, right? Like the time these movies were made in. But there was also no sexual element to Monty and Kamini's relationship, right? Where
Yeah.
that would be the obvious thing to go for. Especially, she's a rich woman. She doesn't need to get married. There is no love there necessarily, right? She just has a young playboy with her. But that's not what Kamini wants. Kamini wants love, right?
I don't know. There's one point where Rishi Kapoor's character Monty specifically says, "I just want to be with you. I don't want sex or physical relationship with you. I don't want your money. I just want your company," in a way. And I
Yeah.
don't know why explicitly that was mentioned. Perhaps not to paint Kamini as the sexual being or being of desire. I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of an interesting play because again, yeah, Rishi Kapoor is saying that, but we never know what Kamini wants out of this,
Well,
right?
a lot of Subhash Ghai's filmography is sort of modeled on Hitchcock. That's why he does the little cameo things as well,
Yeah.
for instance. And Hitchcock has like a big, like one of the things that when you talk about when you say Hitchcockian is about the frigid blonde. And I've always felt like Kamini is like one of those characters, this woman who's just gorgeous and every man wants her, but she's completely repelled by the thought of having sex with any of the men that that want her, and therefore she finds the idea of this beautiful man who doesn't want anything from her except to worship her as a goddess, to be more attractive, and not just to her vanity but also to like what she wants out of life.
I found, I don't know how reliable it is, but in the IMDb trivia section, I found like a bit where they added how it was very difficult to cast for Kamini because it's obviously a female character with negative shades, and Simi Garewal did not want to do the villain's role, but Subhash Ghai insisted her, that he would pay her like handsomely, and she was worried that it would harm her career. But like if you look back at her career, she hasn't necessarily done bigger roles after Karz in a way. But what she wanted was to add a more sympathetic telling of Kamini's character to justify her motives, but we never necessarily got to see that. So,
yeah, I don't actually know too much of Simi Garewal's work, to be honest. I know her almost more as from her
TV,
talk show.
yeah.
Which was also a very kind of like path-breaking thing that she'd created, right, at that time. It's the pre-coffee with Karan thing. But yeah, I don't know a lot of her work, to be honest. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, she was great in this, though. But I think
she had like really big connections with the Gandhi family, the Rajiv Gandhi family, and she did a documentary on Rajiv Gandhi, and she also, I think, produced a Channel 4 documentary on the life of Raj Kapoor. So that was before Rendezvous became a thing on Star Plus, like after satellite TV came into being. But she's been actively involved in these big media pieces rather than, I don't know. I remember her because of these rather than her film career.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything else you want? What else we want to talk about?
What's your favorite song? And why is Main 16 Baras Ki not good?
I mean, it's just like, it feels odd, that Main 16 Baras Ki song, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I mean, I don't think it's a good song necessarily compared to all of the others there.
I love it.
You love it?
Yeah.
That's your favorite one?
No, that's not my favorite one. I think my favorite is still Om Shanti Om.
Yep.
It's funny because he's there's this idea, because the idea of reincarnation is in this movie, and they really talk about the religious element of it, right? And he's clearly saying, I am not a non-religious person, but he's also sang Om Shanti Om as the biggest song at the start of the song. I was like, that's kind of
also
an interesting...
like the whole माँ के दूध का कर्ज अदा करना है और चुकाना है. That's a wailing of the mother to Goddess Kali in a way, and obviously the image of Goddess Kali is kind of present, like that's where Ravi Verma's life goes away. So yeah, it has a very strong religious imagery in a way. Yeah. But what's your favorite song, Asim?
I think it's Dard Dil.
Which is weird because all the songs of Monty are sung by Kishore Kumar except for Dard Dil, which is Mohammad Rafi. It's when he breaks the contract, he goes into Mohammad Rafi mode.
But it's just like, because you have all Kishore songs, right? And they're very like peppy and energetic. But when Rafi comes, his voice is so full. He has such a full range, vocal range. It just overwhelms you. And it's just, I'm not saying... I mean, I'm not like saying Rafi is better than Kishore Kumar. I'm not going to wade into that conversation at all. But it's just like...
Be careful, Asim.
Yeah, exactly.
कितने apology चुकाना पड़ेगा तुमको.
Plus, ये मुसलमान है. Add that angle in there too. You know? ये Pakistani. But no, it's just... visually it hits you. And also just like, I like the song itself, I like it, because all of the Om Shanti Om and all of this is like a big stage kind of production going on, and this is just him with a guitar
and the violin.
And it almost feels charming in that moment. So
speaking of sets and all the art direction, Dard Dil has a trick up its sleeve. There is a bit where he says "Parda giraya aapne" and the parda giros, in the background. It's such a एकदम पैसा वसूल scene.
Yeah, it's I really like it. It's just like I think it's just because of the change, the vocal change, and the way it's set up. I thought that was like, and I mean, even me that doesn't know the movie, I know all of these songs, and I was like, oh yeah, obviously. I don't know when they were. That's the other thing. I didn't know when they were gonna happen in the movie. So when they'll drop, so I was like, oh my god, this is now, and I thought that was really cool. So it's kind of these things that really worked for me. Amrita, yours is Om Shanti Om, you said?
Actually, it's Ek Hasina Thi,
Ah.
but Om Shanti Om is a close second.
Hmm.
But yeah, like it's just iconic. Like I'll just find myself humming these songs, uh, like just out of the blue. My brain will just be like, let's just sing. वो हाँ कहेगी भी तो खुशी से मर जाऊंगा मैं यार like that. It's just like, and I was just thinking as I was watching this movie again about how much we lost when Kishore Kumar died, because the way that Kishore sings, like I don't think anyone before him or after him has ever been able to do it, because the man is full on acting.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to even watch the film to like get the pathos of the song.
Yeah.
Like you can just live the song just by listening to him sing it. And I was actually listening to a tribute band on YouTube doing like a bunch of Kishore Kumar songs, and it was so terrible. It wasn't terrible because of the way that they were singing it. They were all like perfectly in tune, and they were like, doing like a good job singing it. But the thing is, like, all of them just fell absolutely flat without Kishore Kumar emoting those songs. And I know there was like a period in the 70s when he fell out with Amitabh Bachchan apparently, and he refused to sing any Amitabh Bachchan songs. And Amitabh actually went and apologized and was just like, I'm really sorry for pissing you off. Please sing for me again.
Yeah.
Because it was such a huge like loss.
Yeah.
To the way that the songs came out. But having said that, I mean, of course, like Rafi is my favorite. Like I think we've had this conversation before, Asim, where I was just talking about like how much I love Rafi. And the way that, and Rafi's like voice is like unmatched in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. This is the album though that I think of as the quintessential LP album, like the Lakshmikant Pyarelal album. And like Sujoy, like I know that there are definitely little plagiarisms here and there, and I don't give a shit.
Yeah, me neither.
This is this is the Lakshmikant Pyarelal album to me.
For me, when Om Shanti Om starts, the song,
yeah,
I get like, because how rich this soundtrack is, right? That particular song in particular, my direct reference is then to the beginning of Om Shanti Om, the film. With then you go into the studio and Shah Rukh is there with Farah Khan dancing. Oh, मैं director होती तो तुझे नहीं लेती. It's that. And yeah, my heart is full when Om Shanti Om starts, and it's such an iconic way to shoot a song. The whole silver dress and Monty written on the back, the audience is cheering. It's like it's what disco dancer wants to be when he grows up. It's kind of that. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I think with Kishore is clearly when he's singing, you know that he changed the game, like more than anybody. Like, love Rafi and all, but he seems to be more of a classical singer than Kishore. You know that things were not the same anymore after this, and he has that kind of power, right? Like, let's say A.R. Rahman or something like that. He has contemporaries, but like the way he changed the game, it's never going to be the same again. And I think Kishore has that.
I'd like to add one more thing in the bucket of love and respect for Mohammad Rafi, though, which I saw in a Sonu Nigam sort of interview, when he's obviously the disciple of Mohammad Rafi, and he's, in a way, for me, carried on that legacy in a way that, the love for Rafi lives through Sonu Nigam in some ways for me. And he said, like, playback singing was never the same again after Mohammad Rafi arrived, because before him, it was the KL Saigals and whoever sang before him, like Talat Mahmood and all of that. They had a particular style of filmy singing, but Mohammad Rafi, like, sort of invented playback singing in Bollywood, in modern day Bollywood, of how to emote, how he sings
Yeah,
classical music from Madhuban Mein Radhika to Ehsaan Tera Hoga Mujh Par, which is a
yeah.
completely romantic way of singing. How you enunciate, how you emote through words was never the same again after Muhammad Rafi arrived on the scene. Like, he, like, discovered, invented that whole genre of playback singing, and obviously Kishore Kumar came after that in a way.
Any random things you noticed watching Karz after so many years? Anything that you want to still point out?
Um,
I'd forgotten that stupid expression on Tina Munim's face.
Which one?
The slightly like mouth open, eyebrows raised expression that she has when she's
Yeah.
like, she's trying to be like innocent, and she basically gives like, I had a lobotomy instead.
You really
Uh,
don't like her.
um,
I've some random bits in Ek Hasina Thi, where Ravi Verma's bust is, sort of unveiled as a tribute, like the tea estate, whatever, Malik, and it's made out of plaster of Paris. It's yeah, that.
it's also placed in this really weird spot. Like, I didn't remember that it was like basically in the middle of the auditorium and with its back to the stage.
Yeah.
So it's like, what kind of placement is this?
And then within the song, they are trying to make a point for Kamini to go apeshit, right? So they sort
Yeah.
of do the random switching between Ravi Verma and Monty, where Tina Munim is just being tossed from left to right, and Ravi Verma switches from Monty to him, and it's just nuts. Poor Tina. Um, another trope that we all discovered is the in a climax fight everybody comes together, and that this also
Yeah.
happens here, where it's pretty much the Priyadarshan curse, right? Everything happens all together. One last trivia is that the songs of this film inspired several movie titles. Paisa Ye Paisa is a movie, Main 16 Baras Ki, Ek Hasina Thi, Aashik Banaya Aapne, and obviously Om Shanti Om.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I was so shocked that this movie flopped. Like, it's such a influence for so many things. Two random notes that I had, because we've not really talked a lot about the Ma and the Behen, right? That whole part that he recognizes her and he knows who she is and stuff like that. They're really living in squalor, at that point. But the funny part is where he comes in. They don't know this guy Monty, right? They're in a small village, and I don't think these village people know who this pop singer is. And the Ma is going like, oh, it's my beta and stuff like that, and he's like, I'm here, I'm gonna take care of it. And everybody's like Sahab aa gaye, Sahab kar lenge. And they all just leave this old lady that they've known all of their life. I was like, wow, this is just amazing. You just come in with a high neck and people are just gonna make room for you in this little village. Like, Sahab aa gaye, Sahab aa gaye. And the other thing that I also found really weird, this movie has a lot of art. Have you focused on the art in this movie?
No.
All of the art is very boob focused, like all of it, and there's no art whatsoever except this one painting where there's like a lady breastfeeding a babe, and there's like 3-4 other shots, and the movie really like cuts to those shots, and it's like so weird, like why it's like this 70s 80s art in there. But this would never happen.
It's very Raj Kapoor of Subhash Ghai to do that. Let's just put it there.
Yeah, maybe it is again one of those Raj Kapoor influences. But I was like, how did they get away with this in the 80s? Like, you wouldn't even be able to do this now. There is no way the censor would pass these kind of paintings in the background. Like, what is happening here? But yeah, Amrita, any random things that you still had about Karz?
I mean, this entire movie is like a collection of like really random things. Like when Rishi Kapoor has had his little meltdown, and that entire like medical test thing that happens, and you're just like, this is medical malpractice at least. Like, what is happening?
They
Um,
put on the Clockwork Orange helmet on his
I
right. Like
know. And it makes like pee pee poo poo noises
I
also.
I would go crazy. I would start babbling about past lives if they put that on my head. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it for Karz. I think like Sujoy, any final words?
Watch it for the music, and if you want to get reminded of how movies used to be in the 80s, I think this is a good way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this will ease you in a way.
This will be, yeah. And I think what Amrita was also saying, it is a very kind of transitional movie, right, between the 70s and the 80s, where it has certain portions of what the 70s still had and what the 80s will become. And I think that was really clear to me that it's really like, 80s, like the start of a new decade, and things will be changing from here.
I don't know how much they change in the next movie that we are going to discuss in 80s Dhamaka series, which is Kalia. How much of a change that has happened since Karz into Kalia, but we will discuss that on our next episode.
Exactly. I want to keep my Kalia talking points for the Kalia episode. Amrita, final words on Karz?
It's a classic. It truly is. And I'm so glad that we chose this to kickstart our 80s series.
Yeah. I'm really glad I finally watched it. Although I feel it's interesting because you watch a movie that's kind of the basis for so many other movies, and it's weird because you feel you've seen it in a
It all
better
is.
version already, right? You've seen, and I still think Om Shanti Om is better than Karz. I'm not going to change my opinion on that, but it makes me also want to rewatch Om Shanti Om. The moment Karz was done, I was like, I think I want to watch Om Shanti Om again now, or Karan Arjun and so many others. But it's I'm so happy I watched Karz, after so many years, and I think this was kind of the perfect opportunity, the perfect time for me to watch it, where I don't necessarily have all of the biases about Rishi Kapoor and stuff like that from back in the day. I think also because now he's passed away, you almost soften about certain people, right? When they're not around anymore. Because when he was alive, the Twitter Rishi Kapoor was very much in my face. That's the one I remember, and all of the stories from Ranveer and stuff like that. So all of that kind of melds away. But yeah, Karz is really, really good. I think also it was a pretty decent print we watched on YouTube, so it's available. And if you haven't watched it, or you haven't watched it in a while, and I think even some of our listeners were like, "Oh, we want to rewatch the movies while we do this series." So I think everybody that has watched Karz has really appreciated it, I think. And if you have, or if you haven't, drop us an email at upodcasting@gmail.com. We won't be reading the emails during the series, but we will probably collect them and then do a post Dhamaka series episode and then kind of go through your thoughts. So you have a bit of time. You have a bit of time to revisit the movie, get your thoughts together. Drop us an email at upodcasting@gmail.com. If you want to have a more interactive experience of talking with us, join Patreon, where we're live, we talk and we have conversations, and there's all other lovely people that love Khandaan, love movies, that are having a conversation going. So that's a great way to join us and to support us. You get the episodes quicker, you get them ad free, and it's a good way to support our work. Sujoy, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram at 9E3K. And you can also
Okay.
follow Khandaan Podcast on all
I
our
love the way
socials
that it's
at Khandaan
frozen
Podcast.
also.
Yeah. Is he coming back? Yeah. Sujoy, you froze.
Okay.
You there?
Yeah. I've already recorded my bit though, so I don't know.
Just say it again
Yeah.
in case.
You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky at 93K, and you can follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast. And as Asim said, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/Khandaan Podcast.
Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky and still on Twitter at Amrita IQ.
I'm at Asim Bernie on all of those social medias that you mentioned. And we're looking forward to doing this series. We're looking forward to talking about Kalia next episode. Thank you for listening. And yeah, that's it.
Hey, ding, pata, pata, dingity, papa, 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 papa.
Khandaan podcast from VIP Glottis. Papa, are you podcasting again?